Hey guys, I wanted to preface this video with some thoughts for developers that want to take things seriously, or for developers in general. My channel, I'm not a good YouTuber. Like I don't do great thumbnails. I'm not extrovert. I'm not very good. I don't have a charisma. I'm not very charismatic, but I do have some experience in publishing games. And I publish games in Android, iOS, Steam, Pico, Meta, and so I've done VR, non-VR, mobile, PC, and I've seen and I've dealt with hackers, with multiplayer games, single player games, apps, all that, and I've learned a lot, things that I didn't want to have to learn, but I did through experience. And now I'm at a point where I want to share that knowledge. One, for me, so I can look back at it and just have it as reference. And two, for other people that were in my boat before, where maybe documentation is not helping you get what you need, and also to save you headaches. I've seen videos of developers getting scammed, hacked, like all kinds of crazy things with their game. And then they're like, I don't have enough money to sue them. I can't do anything. A lot of times hacking and prevention from that comes early on in stage. You can't just do it after the fact, even if you have money, because it requires you to figure out how to log in players, how to authenticate players, how to create the backend. And so you can't just like scrap the backend and change mid-game, like at the end when you already published your game. So these are things that you have to do before. But before this, unless you've done it before, you don't have any experience doing that. And so that's why I'm trying to share that information. I've also seen developers that have had success, and then they're like, oh, we're getting so much money. And then they think because they have a lot of money, they can hire a bunch of people. And then they just hire people, and then they just drain their account, right? And then at the end, they end up with either lawsuits or not able to finish the game, or just all kinds of crazy things happen, and because of money management. And so all these things that happen after the fact, a lot of developers are like, oh, well, if I have success, I'll figure it out because I'll have enough money. But that's not the case. Is oftentimes you make a lot of bad decisions because you are tight on schedule and you don't have time. That's why I created this channel and the community Endgame Devs, is so that you have access to me. And not that I'm like knowledgeable in everything, but I can help you understand what's going to come up and how to prevent certain things. And so with that's what this next video is about, is authentication with Meta and VR. And these same methods can be used for Steam and PC VR. It's just it requires a little bit more finesse or different things. But what I'm about to share with you guys is how to use Azure Functions with PlayFab. So you can use it with you don't even have to use Azure Functions. You don't even have to use PlayFab. You can use BrainCloud. You can use other backend services and create server-to-server code. And what I'm sharing with you is low-hanging fruit. It's the next step, and it doesn't require too much. It's just one function that you set up on the cloud. And the other thing that I wanted to share with those specifically for VR, if you're a Meta VR developer, this is something that I've learned recently that not even Meta employees know about, and that is that the attestation stuff is the thing that Meta backs up, is the device ban. I'm not going to do that in this video because it requires a high lift of code, because you have a server, and the server is the one deciding when to check and whether the player playing is on a legit device, and if it should ban that device. So it's a lot of server-side code that you have to do. But if you like something like that, I can go over that and figure it out for you. But the main thing, the reason why I bring this up is because they have in the documentation on Meta, in the video I'll show you the link, but there's a org scope ID, which is what I'm using to ban players. That is per account. So a hacker can still evade that by creating a new Meta account. The good thing about this is that if someone has a legit account, let's say, usually hackers don't use their legit account, they use a variant because they already know this. They don't. But let's say a player has a big amount of, like, they have Batman Arkham in their account, or they have bought other games, and that account gets banned. Now they can't use that account. They have to also use an alt account. So they have to switch it around, and it's more of a hassle. So I personally think this is a good low-hanging fruit, is banning their account. And I'll show you how to do that. The problem is that Meta used to have a way to ban them with a click of a button. You didn't have to do anything. But Meta decided to forego that, and they removed it from the dashboard, which is super lame. But like, they did that, and some of the Meta employees don't know that, because I was asking Meta and they were searching, and then when they finally got to like higher ups, they learned that was removed. So if you don't see anything, like, there's in the documentation, it says that you can ban people by going to the report tool, and you can use that to ban them. That stuff doesn't exist anymore. Like, the button's not there. You can't ban them. So the only way to do device ban is through the attestation, through the server, but there's no like user banning anymore, because they found out that hackers can evade them with a new Meta account. And Meta, instead of like just like not letting people do crazy amount of users, they just let it happen, and they hope that you use device ban. But I think Meta does do some stuff with sketchy accounts, sketchy alt accounts and whatnot. But there's a lot more that happens with that. I just wanted to let you know that the documentation that I'm about to show you, even that one, sometimes it's outdated because Meta keeps changing things year after year. But the device ban, even if Meta ends up getting rid of the device ban, you have the Azure function that you know how to connect to your server and authenticate outside, because that alone gives you the ability to remove creating users on the client, and that will help you from players, because one thing that hackers do is spam accounts. So they'll spam new accounts, and so you have a flood of new accounts that are never played. And so if you notice on your backend that you have a lot of accounts of players that day one players that don't do anything, is because probably hackers are just spamming your game with new accounts that don't do anything. And so if you validate it in some way and you tie it to a user account, at least you have that one thing that for every account, someone went through the trouble of creating a valid account for that. And so it takes a little bit, it's more friction for the hackers. So with that in mind, if you ever have questions, the whole point of my YouTube channel is one thing, is so that indie developers don't have an excuse to finish their games and don't have an excuse to whine about why no one told them that this would happen, like with banning, getting hacked, getting spammed, or even like with scaling their business, multiplayer games, single player, whatever that is. I'm here to help you. And that's why if you have any questions, leave the comments below. I have the school community for as long as I can run it. If I end up getting burnt out, then I just get rid of the community. If I don't see anybody wanting the advice or the help, I'll just get rid of YouTube, get rid of the community, and just work on my own. Because for me, like, it's just, I'm trying to pay it forward, because I wish someone was doing this for me back in the day. But if it's not useful, I can just stop, and then I'll just put more time into my own games and be selfish. I don't mind that. I love making games. I'll be making games till the day I die. And so with that in mind, here's the server-to-server authentication video. Hello guys, I'm George Gonzalez, and I'm obsessed with making games. Today, we're gonna go over a very specific topic. If you are a VR developer making games for Meta, okay, and you don't wanna get hacked, or you wanna have more security in your accounts, especially if this is specifically if you wanna, people that are IP avoiding IP bans, or even bans in general by, or different like VPNs and whatnot, this is the perfect solution to help you just completely legitimize accounts, okay? So, and this is something that you have to do early on. You can't do after the fact, because if you have a backend, you already have a way of creating accounts. And there are specific ways of preventing hacks and stuff through PlayFab or a backend. And if you need help with this, you can have a school community where I help developers finish their games. And so if you're interested in that, you can join that. And that's only for serious developers that want to finish games and are serious about game development. And so that's why I'm doing this, because I feel like this is a topic that has been discussed by a lot of serious developers on Meta in first access forums. And so I want to have this be a public thing, so that people can't complain. So this is how to do it with PlayFab. You can do it with Brain Cloud or whatever backend. And the main thing that I'm doing is I'm using an Azure function. So it's just anywhere you can do Python anywhere. You can do any kind of service that allows you to do server-side code, okay? Because that's what this is. And I'm going to show you. So we have the user, the usual initialization with Meta. Okay, so we have the entitlement check that we initialize. And then if everything goes well, we do an entitlement check. This is usual. Like, you always do this, right? It's already part of your workflow, hopefully. And if you need this script and the Azure functions, again, it's all in for my premium members on Endgame Devs and my school community. And that way you can have access to all the code that you want. Users get logged in. And so when you get the user, like once you are entitled to use the app, you can log in, get the user that's logged in to the headset. And what you need to do is you need to get user proof. And so we go then to get a nonce. I don't know how you say it, but basically it gives you the Oculus nonce is from right here. You should be able to get it when you log in right here. And this is the proof that you need to then do the server function. Okay, so up to this, everything is legit. Usually, also if you use Fusion, Fusion can use this Oculus nonce to authenticate the player. So that's one level that I usually have, is that every time I log in, I use that nonce to communicate with Fusion. So people, unless they're entitled, they can't log in. But hackers have been able to avoid this and use their own string value. So they still have a value. I'm not sure how they do that, but I know that they can get by this. So this Azure function then gives you the ability to log in. And again, the main reason why I'm doing this is because this won't prevent all the hacks. Like, players can manipulate in many ways. And if you would like me to do a video on how hackers manipulate your game, or usually, especially in VR, I can give you some of the tips and tricks or things that they do. But the reality is that if you try to block them where they're hacking in specific places that you can't avoid. And we could talk about that. And so this is one way for you to make it so that they can't avoid a ban. So once you find them, because they're easy to find, for example, if they exploit currency in currency, or they do a hack where they have all these things, or someone reports them, you can ban them on PlayFab and they won't be able to make another account. And so the ban is permanent, okay? So that's why. And so it doesn't prevent the hack, but it gives you the ability so that they're banned for life. And there's some stuff that on Meta for the reporting system that you can hardware ban, but it's not working. And I'm talking to them too as well on that so that they can fix it or figure out why it's not working the way it's supposed to. But for now, we're going to use this to get the org scope ID. And I'll leave a link below in the documentation, but I'm pretty sure you can find it by Googling it. But let me look it up. In here, we have the user verification. See, and then here it shows you kind of how this works and where we're at. So again, like we are doing all these things, and then now we're going into the server to do authentication. So this is what it's called. It's the retrieving the org scope ID. Okay. And I don't save it with the player. I'll show you how to use it on PlayFab. Okay, so we are gonna call the Azure function, and I'm gonna show you how to do this. But for right now, I want to show you how it works on Unity. So you send the function via request. So you have the nonce and the user ID, because those are the things you need to then authenticate. Okay, we have all the string, and most of this was I was able to do it with ChatGPT and also Betsy specifically for the Unity stuff. But it was pretty straightforward based on documentation. There's nothing complicated about this, other than it's just like a session ticket. So here I'll show you what we have. We have the settings. So the reason why this is the result, right? So let me go back in here. I'm not going to explain too much about it. Okay. So what happens is back here, we do an async task. We request the data. We load the data as a string, as a JSON. Then we send it as a response in the body. So here, if the response is success, so see, we're doing a try catch. If this response is this HTTP client post async, right? And this is a URL. So if I show you my game, it doesn't matter if you see the ID, but see, we have this function URL. And in here, you post it. And I'll talk to you how I went about doing it. So don't worry, we're going to go over everything. And I'm going to try to do a timestamp. But right now, we're talking about Unity, okay? So you have a string. This is where you're going to send it. You do the login response. And then when you come back, so this login response is going to have a PlayFab ID and an Oculus alias. And this alias is the display name. And so that way I don't have to, we could grab it from up here. Like in here, we have the display name. So we could do that in here as well. It's just that I wanted to make sure that we have the display name from the correct source. Okay, so that way players can't hack their usernames. So that the username that's displayed for them, I typically don't let them change it. So this is something that you can change according to your needs. But I have a return variable of the ID and the display name. Okay, so we authenticate. So this authentication is because we logged in on the backend. And so what you'll see even if you run it through ChatGPT, it'll forget to do this. ChatGPT, Betsy, all these AIs don't have the experience of publishing a game. And so when you run it, you're gonna run into bugs or problems. And so I'm trying to save you time so that you understand what you need to take into account. And so what happens is when you create this authentication setup, you are essentially logging into PlayFab through that authentication. So that way you can't hack or create your own account. And so what I did is on PlayFab, I stopped the ability to allow clients to create accounts, because that's one way that players will spam custom logins to kind of do a DDoS attack on your PlayFab server. So they'll spam new accounts like crazy and flood your game with empty accounts. And so this will prevent that, because this will be tied specifically to the headset. So for as many headsets as there can be accounts, and no more, no less. Well, there'll be less if there's less players playing your game, but you can't just fake that, okay? Because this is a specific login setup. Okay, so what we do is we get the authentication ticket. So here we have the response, the session ticket, and the Oculus alias, and then if it's newly created. Okay, so this information is the stuff that we get when we log in. So this is stuff that I exported, and we'll see how we get it later. But for now, you gotta understand that you need this to later use it for like leaderboards or set display name if you're gonna change it. So any client API call that you need, like purchasing items, all the stuff that you usually do when you log in, are not gonna work unless you log in. So to avoid the redundancy, you don't wanna log in through here. You're gonna log in through the authentication to make it legit. And then you're gonna set up everything in here. So the PlayFab settings, the players, the session tickets, so that you know, hey, you're logged in. And this is redundant, you don't need to. It's just that the AI, it wasn't working, so the AI just kept putting extra stuff to make sure it was working. But you don't need this. This is enough. This was just to check, because if the game manager that's logged in, it wouldn't call the PlayFab call. So this is just like a check to make sure we can actually call these. And sometimes you might not be able to log in because the servers are not working. So that's why sometimes this is a good thing to have, is so that if you wanted to play, but maybe say, hey, we can't log into PlayFab, but you still want to play the game. You'll be on a account that doesn't save, and you can do stuff like that. Okay, so that's where you would do that. So if it's newly created, we'll set the display name here, and then we'll check if the display name is different than what they have right now. So if you have a different display name because it changed on Meta, this is how we would change it. So then we have the set display name, and these are all the same API calls as before. And here we check if the display name set display if the display name, and so we check the account info. Okay, so those are the things that we have on Unity. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. The only difference between everything is that instead of just logging in with what information we have or creating a custom ID from their Meta unique ID that's not really unique, that Meta, I don't know why they do that, we're going to use this org scope ID. So the org scope ID should be always the same for the player. You have this thing, this Meta initializer with all the functions as you saw. How do we test it? Okay, so we have this URL, and this URL can change. So you can have a local URL that works. So what I did is I used ChatGPT to say, hey, I need an Azure function, and I need to test it locally. And so we did locally. And so we have in here, let me give you, we have functions that we created, and you see now it's deployed. So you have this Meta server. But basically, we created a new login with Meta, and we don't need these anymore. We just tested it locally. But this is all done with ChatGPT. I did not write a single line of code here. Maybe I fixed some stuff. So the main thing is that you can copy all this, or you can go to, join our community again for premium members. You can have all this. And the idea is that this is the environment, get environment variables. And the thing is, we have these environments right here, but I'm not going to show you because they're mine and I don't want to expose them. But these are app ID, you get it from Meta to dashboard. App secret, you get it from Meta to dashboard. And if you need help, we can do one-on-ones in my school community, and can show you where it is. PlayFab title ID and secret key. Again, you go to PlayFab, you log in. And the thing is, we have it in this local file. And then when you go to Azure Function, I'll show you where you set those. But the thing is, this works. And then what happens is you set up the local to run locally, and then you hit, I believe you run the server like this. And it's probably not gonna, and what you'll see is that it will create this. So now it's running. And so you have this post right here, local. And so I could go in here. You'll see, I think I can do it live. I think it'll work, maybe. So we'll go in here. Let me show you. And I'll post that. So this is the local. So if it's running, so it's running, I had F5. So let me show you again. So it's running. There's a terminal. Can you see? Yeah. So the terminal is running, and you'll see, I'll try to bring it back up in a second after I hit play. You'll see that I'll hit play and it'll run it locally instead of going to the website. So this is how you can test it without even having an Azure function. Like, you don't have anything on Microsoft yet. This is how you say, like, is this legit? Because you're connecting Meta with PlayFab through your local script. Okay, now you'll see it. It's authenticating. See, and it runs, and it's logging the player, and you'll see, what is this? Functions logging with Meta succeeded. See, and it's going to log into the game. Okay, so it works locally, right? And you saw how easy it was to swap it with the rest. And because I'm filming and other stuff, it's like taking a long time to do stuff. So I'm going to stop it. Okay, so that works locally. So this is how you can, like, with ChatGPT and Claude, kind of like go through it and make sure it's working. Okay, so now you want to make your Azure function and figure that out locally. How do you do that? Well, you can ask ChatGPT or you can ask Claude. I will walk you through it. The main thing is that you need to install Net 8.0, so you'll need the latest. Just make sure you have, ChatGPT will tell you what you need, but the main thing is that you have Net installed, and I think the specific libraries, Azure Functions, Visual Studio, and they should have everything installed. Okay, so we go to Visual Studio, create a solution, create a new project. And then here it'll give you options. You just type in Azure Function. So here it is. And you just got to make sure that you add whatever you need. So like if you need to do Azure, Azure or Microsoft or Visual Studio, you have the installer, and that will give you different, like, what you can add to the project. But you need this. So we'll create this next, and then you can name it whatever. Project. So this is the project name. What do you want? So I would probably say like Magic Hunter Azure Functions, right? So that way I know I left it, and so that's why the name is that. But then it'll create that, and it'll create in a place repo, and so you have the net.8. So you got to make sure you have this. If not, make sure you download it, and then this is all you need. Then you hit create, and they'll create that. And then the next thing is, I did most of the rest. It'll give you, it'll give you this, and then you can run through you can ask ChatGPT to start helping you, and then you can add as you go and learn. Typically, let's go back to try to do this again. So then when you create, like we ran through this, or did we not? So we have the login with Meta, so authentication server, and then most of this information is from the documentation. But we went over this, right? We verify the nonce and then we return. But this is exactly what creates the information. So like once we have, so see this comes from Oculus, like we give it the documentation and you can give it to ChatGPT and then the login user ID, the access token. Then we deserialize the results. And then we have the error response, which is crucial. It's good that ChatGPT and Claude give you these like different error logs, because if the status, it'll tell you why it failed, and then you can kind of debug that way as you go. Then you get the org scope ID, and then we have the information, right? And then we set, the PlayFab settings. But this doesn't work here. So you got to think this is going to be on the server. So this code is wrong, right? So this is not even needed. Like you can delete that. But right now what that's doing, it's then sending the creation and doing all the requests, but this is from a server. So it's server to server. It logs in and then it gives you the request title. So we have the Oculus alias, remember that we got. And then, so this is specifically for the data so that we have that saved on the player. Again, this is not needed either. It's redundant, but I'm just showing you kind of like this all works. And then this is all the response that you get. So we have the PlayFab ID, the session ticket that if it's newly created, and the Oculus alias for like the display name. Login completed successfully, and then we're done. And then this is a try catch, the exception. So all this is pretty standard, and documentation will lead you to this. So the thing that AI is really great at is reading documentation for you and then using it. Because this stuff, like the server to server, is pretty straightforward. Like it's documented in a certain way, and the APIs will work as long as ChatGPT is not making stuff up. Like you can copy paste the documentation or give it a link, and now they can actually look at it. So this is all working, and when it's you can test it locally by, like we said, you hit play or F5 and it runs on your computer. This is like a local host, and then you grab that IP or the address and you put it in the string. Now, in order to go to Azure Function, so in here we have publish. So right click on the right and it'll give you the publish setup. And in here you notice that I have my account. So you can log in with your account into Microsoft and then make sure you have the right group set up, and then you hit publish and you send it. Okay. And then once you send it, I'll show you. We have in here, let me make sure I show you guys. So now we can go into the meta login. So we're in home here. So I'm going to show you, I have the meta login here. So the way you set this up, you go in, when you start at first, you create a resource and you click on function apps. Remember like what we were doing. And I click this one at the end, the consumption, confirm because I'm on the free account. The problem was that when in here you select again, most of the stuff, let me zoom in so you can see the subscription, the resource group, meta login group, and then you can create new, or usually you have to create a new one and then you set it up. It's just that this is me trying to figure out why it wasn't working. And then the app name, meta login, and there's like, it'll go through all these stuff. And then it already exists. Okay, whatever I want. And then let me see what else. Runtime stack.net. And then here's, you want to make sure I did west is the location. And again, this is all because PlayFab is on the west side, US West. I think they're in California maybe. But so that's the closest to their servers. So that will help you run faster with PlayFab, so PlayFab won't run into problems. The issue that I had when it goes through a bunch of stuff, right? Like you have the storage, networking monitor, all these things are the same. When you create it, I got an error with the subscription. So I had to follow a ticket. I had to talk to support because I was the next thing I had to do was trying to add a VM, a virtual machine, to run the APK. And so it wasn't pretty straightforward for some reason. So if you get errors, again, write a support ticket, because I couldn't manually add one VM. I don't know why. Okay, so if you need help with debugging because you created a My Function app with a free account and it's not working for whatever reason because of the quota limit, here's where you go. Okay, I'm going to show you. And again, this and the next thing I'm going to show you are one of the most important things to get it going. And it sucks that it's so hard to find. So even after I've done it, I had to go back through to try to figure out, because it's bananas how bad this is. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly how to do it and save you time. That is my main focus. Okay, so we have the resources in here, and I think I typed in quotas or something. Let me check. Where did I typed in here quota? Because I was like, I'm so sick. But then in here, quotas, you go into app service. See, again, they have 50 billion things to choose from, and none of them are what you need. It's so crazy. And in here, see how you have all these different things, and see how I have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So I think it's because I didn't have any. And so I do a request adjustment, and that didn't work. And so then I had to like do a support ticket. So I'll show you. So I went to, I think it's at the end because it's West. W. Yeah, so then we go West. And what was it? West US? West. Okay, last one. West US. And I just went to the first one, right? Like the first in here. And you'll see now I have, I think all my West US. I went to this first one, but see, they did it all 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and I think 30 on these. So all my West US have, let me move this way. So see, they're all except these last two because they're regional. But all these are 1, 1, 1, and 30. So they fixed it. But I have to go in here, and these are 30. I don't know, because I don't know why they did this one. So for some reason, the other ones don't work. I don't know what happened, but in here, I go in request, and I say, hey, I need a limit of 1. I just need 1. I don't know. Yeah, anyways. So, and then there was an error. And so then I had to like do the report again, and they did it. Okay, so that's one thing, that headache. Again, if you have another solution, do it. I just did this because it was like, I was so close. I was almost done. The next thing that is super, 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 super hard is the URL. And that's like the most important thing because that's what you need in Unity, right? And let's go back. This is the final thing in here. See, in here, we have the localhost. We need to change that to the deployed version. And you have so many URLs, you're going to get confused. I'm going to show you exactly what you need, okay? So you're here with the, wherever you find it. You can find these. You might have it in here in functions or whatever. You will, this part is easy. Finding this meta login, you'll probably find it somewhere. Okay, so you're in here. Now you have this overview, and it'll be like this. And you'll be like, oh, where's the URL? This is the URL. No, it's not. Stop. None of these things are the URL. And I was like, where is it? Where is it? And I'm trying to click on functions because, and it's not here, app keys, app files, whatever. It's not. Go back to overview. You see how there's a name here? This is what you need to click. This. Okay, so you click on that, and now you see this, get function URL. And now you have the URL. And this is the, I believe it's the host. This is the one that you need. Either way, it just needs a question mark at the end. Somewhere. Yeah, see, there's the code, and that's what you need. There's nothing like secure about that. And so then I paste that in, and it works. I'm done. So like, and so to finalize this, and while it's waiting, you're complete. The code, you can use ChatGPT. It's all documentation. It works. For the backend, I just show you how to publish it, and the things that went wrong with me. It was the worst experience. I don't know why it's so hard to get something working. And so once I fixed that, I could create the account, the function, and I can upload to that account. If you have problems, let me know. But the main thing with this is that now you have server authentication. Your game is more secure. And the reason why this works is because what I use the org scope ID as the custom ID. And then I go on PlayFab and say, do not allow the client to make new accounts. So only Azure Function is the one that's going to do the account, and it's going to use org scope ID. So if someone does like a VPN or tries to like do something different, the org scope ID should be the same. Now, whether it's the same for all users, I'm not sure. They might have to create a new user, and that's on Meta. But see, now it works, and it's not locally. It's using the same code that we ran local, but now it's running on Azure, on Microsoft. So, and it connects PlayFab with Meta. Now you have a function in there, and it's minimal cost because it's just like you're just using it for login. You're not doing anything else crazy. Now, if you want to do something else that's secure, that you need like banning people and reporting bans and doing those bans on the back end, you could create your own functions to do that. And Meta has server-to-server stuff for banning players through the backend. But you should be able to do this on PlayFab, and it should not be able to create a new one. We'll see you in the next video.